Hello and welcome to Daily News Simplified. Here we will take up the news articles from The Hindu Delhi edition and discuss them as per the demands of UPSC Civil Services exam. The topics for today's discussion are listed on your screen. Let us begin our discussion. Before starting today's discussion, here we have an announcement for you. The Prelims Mains Integrated Quality Improvement Program, which is going to start from September 2. And this program includes the comprehensive current affair classes, prelims and mains revision sessions, and more than 80 tests for prelims and mains to test your knowledge. And you will also get a personalized one-to-one mentorship. Get ready to embark on a transformative journey that will empower you with knowledge, skills, and confidence that is required to clear the civil services exam. Don't miss this opportunity to be a part of a dynamic and learning community and receive personalized guidance from experienced mentors. And the classes will also be in a hybrid model. You can attend it online or offline at Rouse IAS ORN campus. The first topic which we have taken for today's discussion is based on this news which has featured at page number 12 in The Hindu. It basically talks about MGNREGA scheme. And this news item says that 41% of NREGA workers are out of the Aadhaar-based wage system due to the lack of Aadhaar-based payment system enabled accounts. As MGNREGA is the world's largest social welfare scheme, it becomes important for us to cover the scheme in detail and the issues which are associated with this particular scheme. This topic comes under General Studies paper 2, under which welfare schemes have been specifically mentioned. And the discussion premise of this article, first of all, we will discuss the context and the current issue related to this particular scheme. Then we will go through the basics about MGNREGA and a critical analysis of MGNREGA. Now, what is the current issue? The Aadhaar-based payment system demands that the worker's Aadhaar number must be seeded with job card and bank account. And it was introduced to reduce the leakages in the system. And recently, a survey conducted by an NGO reveals that varying ineligibility percentage among active workers across states. And it also says nearly 1.2 crore people in top 5 states, which are Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, West Bengal, Madhya Pradesh and Rajasthan, will not be paid because their accounts are not enabled for the new system, which is known as Aadhaar based payment system. Further, in Northeast India, Assam has 61% workers who are ineligible, and in Nagaland, 80% of the workers are ineligible for the payments under the new system. You can quote these data figures if a direct question is asked on MGNREGA or welfare schemes. Now we will move on to the basics about MGNREGA. First of all, it is a social welfare program implemented by Government of India, and Ministry of Rural Development is the nodal ministry to implement this particular scheme. And it was enacted in 2005, and it guarantees 100 days of wage employment in a financial year to at least one member of every rural household whose adult members are willing to do unskilled manual work. Here in this statement, we have found 3 facts which are also important for prelims exam. Firstly, it was enacted in 2005. Then, it is a wage employment scheme for unskilled manual work. It is only implemented in rural India. The MGNREGA scheme aims to enhance the livelihood security of people in rural areas by providing them employment opportunities, and will also address the issue of poverty and unemployment which is prevalent in rural areas. In this particular scheme, rural households can demand work and they are entitled to get the work within 15 days of their application. And if the work is not provided within 15 days by the state government, the applicants are entitled to an unemployment allowance. And it is written in the Act, which means employment under MGNREGA is a legal entitlement. And it is an important fact for prelims exam also. Further, the work provided under the scheme includes activities which are related to water conservation, land development, and other rural infrastructure projects. In short, it works for the creation of durable assets. Moreover, the wages which are provided under MGNREGA scheme are linked to the minimum wage rates of the respective states. So, it is not fixed by the center government or Ministry of Rural Development. And lastly, the scheme incorporates transparency and accountability mechanism through social audit and timely payment of wages directly to the workers' bank accounts. Here we have discussed the basics about MGNREGA scheme. Now we will take forward our discussion to the critical analysis of this particular scheme on which a question can appear in mains exam. First of all, we will discuss the benefits of this particular scheme. The first point here is employment generation. As we have discussed in previous slide that MGNREGA guarantees 100 days of wage employment to the adult members of every rural household in a financial year. So it plays an important role in generating employment. And the second one is poverty alleviation. Through employment opportunities, MGNREGA provides a safety net and also increase the economic conditions of vulnerable communities. In this way, MGNREGA plays an important role in reducing poverty. The third one is social inclusion. The program prioritizes the participation of women and marginalized sections by providing them equal opportunities for work and wages. The fourth one is infrastructure development. The MGNREGA projects focus on creating durable community assets such as roads, irrigation projects, and water conservation structures, which contributes to the long-term rural infrastructure development. The next one is skill enhancement. Now you must be wondering how MGNREGA plays a role in skill enhancement as it focuses on unskilled manual work. Through engagement in various projects, the workers gain new skills and experience. For example, the creation of irrigation projects, which can enhance their employability beyond the MGNREGA work period. So it does play an important role in skill enhancement. Further, it also reduces the problem of seasonal unemployment in rural areas, which happens during lean agricultural season. The next point is transparency and accountability. MGNREGA incorporates mechanisms like social audit and direct payment system to reduce the corruption in government schemes. The next one is environmental benefits. Many MGNREGA projects focus on natural resource management and conservation, such as water conservation projects, which improves the overall environmental sustainability of the region. The next one is empowerment of local communities. Through their involvement in the decision-making process regarding project selection and execution, which also fosters a sense of ownership. The next one is it will reduce the distress migration which is happening from rural areas to urban areas due to lack of employment opportunities and other resources which are essential for basic human needs. And by providing employment in rural areas, it reduces the distress-driven migration to urban areas in search of work. Further, it also helps in drought and flood mitigation through creation of ponds and canals in rural areas. And the next one is it paves the way for rural transformation. The program has not only bestowed dignity upon rural workers but also acted as a catalyst for market-driven dynamics within these communities. So, it plays a vital role in rural transformation. And lastly, it worked as a cushion during pandemic as it helped in providing livelihood security to rural population during COVID-19. Here we have discussed 13 points under the benefits of MGNREGA. And if you will be able to recall at least 50% of these points, you will be able to write a decent answer if a question appears on MGNREGA. Now let us discuss the issues which are associated with MGNREGA. The first one is delayed payments. It is one of the persistent issue with this particular scheme. And we have also witnessed protests regarding this in Delhi, Jharkhand and West Bengal. Hence, it is an important issue under MGNREGA. The second one is wage disparities. We will explain this particular point through this example. Haryana is the state which is having the highest daily wage rate at 357 rupees per day. And on the other hand, Madhya Pradesh and Chhattisgarh have the lowest at 221. This data has been taken from the report released by Ministry of Rural Development. And recently, the ministry has issued a notification on the change in wage rates under MGNREGA scheme. It is also an important issue. The third one is corruption and leakages. There have been instances in Jharkhand and Chhattisgarh regarding the mismanagement and leakages in the implementation of MGNREGA scheme. Further, there is a lack of awareness among the rural workers about the entitlements under MGNREGA scheme, which results into limited participation and benefits. And there is also an issue of bureaucratic hurdles due to complex paperwork and red tapeism, which discourages workers from seeking employment under MGNREGA. Further, the issue of quality of assets. Some MGNREGA projects have faced criticism due to the poor quality and durability of the assets that undermines the long-term impact of the program. Further, the scheme has dependence on manual labor, which might not be suitable for all individuals. For example, specially abled individuals. Further, there is a problem of inadequate funds. The budgetary allocation for the financial year of 2023 to 2024 is only 60,000 crore, which is less as compared to the 73,000 crore in previous year. Hence, government has reduced the allocation of funds to MGNREGA scheme. And lastly, gender disparity. Despite the emphasis on gender inclusion, the women's participation in MGNREGA projects is on lower side due to various cultural and social norms. And it is also highlighted by ILO report, which says women's role in society is constrained by gender and familial relations, and their activities are often confined to unpaid care work. And with this particular point, we will conclude our discussion to this particular topic. Now we'll give you one mains practice question on this particular topic. And it says, to what extent has the MGNREGA contributed to sustainable rural development and socio-economic empowerment in India? You need to answer this question in 250 words. A quick recap to our discussion. First of all, we have discussed the context and its relevance for General Studies Paper 2. We briefly discussed about the MGNREGA scheme and a detailed analysis of MGNREGA by highlighting its benefits and the issues which are associated with this particular scheme. You can try your hand on this question just to see whether you are comfortable to present your ideas which you have gathered through this particular discussion. Now moving to the next article of today's discussion, which is based on this news, which says cyclone frequency may rise over Indian coast from the warming of Pacific. The topic of cyclone is relevant for General Studies Paper 1 and Paper 3, as it can be asked in Geography section of GS Paper 1 or Environment or Disaster Management section in General Studies Paper 3. The context of this news is that recently a study has been published in Nature's Communication Journal, which says in recent times the equatorial cyclones, which are originating near equator, have exhibited an unexpected trend of moderation, which means the frequency of equatorial cyclones have reduced. And the last major cyclone of this kind was Cyclone Oki, which brought widespread destruction to the regions including Kerala, Tamil Nadu, and Sri Lanka in 2017. Further, the study reveals that between 1981 to 2010, the equatorial origin cyclones occurred at strikingly lower rate as compared to the period spanning between 1951 to 1980. And this decline aligns with the positive phase of Pacific decadal oscillation. Now, whenever you come across any topic which is coming in the newspapers, how you will assess its importance? The best way to do that is to go through the previous year papers, both mains and prelims, to get an idea about the particular topic. For example, in 2014, a question was asked in GS paper 1 which says tropical cyclones are largely confined to South China Sea, Bay of Bengal and Gulf of Mexico. Why? And similarly, in 2022, UPSC asked that discuss the meaning of color-coded weather warnings for cyclone-prone areas given by Indian Meteorological Department. So, from these two questions, we understood that the topic of cyclone is important for our mains exam. Now let us have a look at this prelims question which appeared in 2015, and it says, in South Atlantic and Southeastern Pacific regions in tropical latitudes, cyclone does not originate. What is the reason? Out of these four options, you need to identify the correct one. So, from these two slides, we get to know that this topic, which is related to cyclone, is important for our UPSC Civil Services exam. And in today's discussion, we are not going to discuss the basics about tropical cyclone, which you can read or must have read in the NCERTs. And our focus will be on the important terms which are mentioned in today's newspaper, such as Pacific Decadal Oscillation, El Nino Southern Oscillation, and equatorial cyclones. We will conclude our discussion by focusing on the influence of climate change on tropical cyclone formation. First of all, we will discuss the important terms such as the Pacific Decadal Oscillation, which is also known as PDO. It is a recurring climatic cycle manifesting every 20 to 30 years in the Pacific Ocean, which results in the fluctuations in sea surface temperatures. A positive phase of Pacific Decadal Oscillation means that warmer waters in the Western Pacific and cooler waters in the Eastern Pacific. And this particular phenomena influences the global climate dynamics and weather patterns. In short, it is a long-term pattern in the ocean's temperature which impacts the global climate and weather patterns. Just think of it as a slow dance of warm and cool water that happens over many years. The second one is El Nino Southern Oscillation. It is also a recurrent climate phenomena which is observed in the Pacific Ocean and characterized by two primary states. The first one is El Nino, which means warmer than normal sea surface temperature, and La Nina, which means the cooler than normal surface temperature. As many of you must be aware that normally the winds blow from east to west, pushing the warm water to Western Pacific. But sometimes these winds weaken up and the warm water goes back to the eastward direction, which brings change in the weather around the world, and it can lead to heavy rains, droughts, and other unusual conditions in different places. Just imagine this like a big oceanic seesaw that messes with the weather in playful but sometimes disruptive way. Hence, it also has implications for temperature and precipitation distributions. The third one is equatorial cyclones. As the name suggests, these are the cyclones which originate in proximity to the equator, and these are fueled by warm waters and abundant moistures. Moreover, these cyclones form at a distance from the equator due to the absence of Coriolis force at equator, as Coriolis force is crucial for the formation of tropical cyclones. And these cyclones are not very frequent, as the last one which we have encountered was in 2017, the cyclone Oki. But they are exceptionally intense and they can cause widespread destruction. Here we have discussed the three important terms which came in the newspaper. Now we will quickly go through what is tropical cyclone. A tropical cyclone is a weather phenomena which is characterized by a region of low atmospheric pressure that originates over warm tropical waters and it subsequently moves towards the coastal regions. Further, the direction of the tropical cyclone is different in different hemispheres. For example, the direction of tropical cyclone is counterclockwise in northern hemisphere and clockwise in southern hemisphere. And this particular rotation is the consequence of the Coriolis force, which is a result of Earth's rotation. Now we will see what is the influence of climate change on tropical cyclone formation, as it can be asked in UPSC mains exam. The first one is related to temperature shifts. The temperature of both ocean and atmosphere plays a crucial role in the creation of tropical cyclones. And as the climate warms, the storms gather strength by harnessing the energy released when evaporated water condenses into rainfall. Hence, it increases the intensity of tropical cyclone. The second one is warmer ocean impact. The escalation in temperature leads to warmer ocean, which elevates the evaporation rate. And this augments the moisture content in atmosphere, intensifying the availability of water vapor, which is required for the formation of tropical cyclone. The third one is enhanced rainfall. the rising temperature enables the atmosphere to retain moisture, thereby increasing the rainfall. And the amplified rainfall contributes to strengthening of wind intensity. The next one is heightened rainfall rates. The recent study revealed that there is a 7% surge in hurricane rainfall rates per degree of warming of climate, underscoring the pronounced impact of rising temperatures on precipitation. The next is storm intensification. The warming of climate results in elevating the wind velocity, which leads to higher frequency of powerful cyclones with their potential for devastating impact. The next is sea level rise influence. The climatic warming elevates the sea level, which augments the height of ocean water. And this elevated water permits the storm surges to penetrate further into the island. The next is impact of storms slowing. The slower moving storms grants additional time for rainfall accumulation, which further increases their potential for flooding. Further, the complex storm speed changes. While the study indicates a reduction in storm speed, but the underlying mechanisms behind this trend remain elusive, and it becomes difficult to predict and issue early warning in case of tropical cyclones. And lastly, the confluence of storms. Within an increasingly warmer world, the merger of two significant tropical storms over global oceans could lead to the formation of powerful mega cyclone, which can further impact the human population and the property. So, in this way, we will conclude our discussion for this particular topic. A quick recap to our discussion. First of all, we have discussed the context and its relevance for General Studies Paper 1 and Paper 3. Further, we saw the previous year mains question of 2014 and 2022 and 2015 prelims question which came on the topic of cyclone. And the correct answer to this particular question is intertropical convergence zone seldom occurs, which is also known as ITCZ. We discussed the important terms such as Pacific Decadal Oscillation, El Nino Southern Oscillation and equatorial cyclones. And then we discussed what is tropical cyclone and lastly the influence of climate change on tropical cyclone formation. Moving on to the next topic, which is based on this news article which appeared at page number 6 in The Hindu. It basically talks about the autonomy of Election Commission. Now this topic is relevant for General Studies Paper 2 under the constitutional bodies, as Election Commission is a constitutional body under Article 324. The topic of Election Commission and its autonomy is important for our discussion. Before moving on to the discussion, let us understand the background of this particular article. The conflict between Indian government and judiciary centers on Election Commission and its officials' appointment. And you must be aware about the issue associated with appointment of Election Commission and its officials. And in this particular regard, Supreme Court of India has ruled that a committee including Prime Minister, Leader of Opposition and Chief Justice of India should advise the President on appointing the Chief Election Commissioner and the Election Commissioners for Election Commission's independence. However, the government introduced a bill to change this procedure, seeking to remove the Chief Justice of India from the selection committee. And this move contradicts the previous calls for fairness and reflects the government's desire for increased influence and potentially reducing Election Commission's autonomy and integrity. As UPSC has previously asked many questions on Election Commission, both in prelims and mains exam. And in this particular discussion, we will focus on the issue of appointment and the reforms which can be implemented to ensure the autonomy and integrity of the constitutional body. In 2017, UPSC asked a question on Election Commission in General Studies Paper 2, and it says, to enhance the quality of democracy in India, the Election Commission of India has proposed electoral reforms in 2016. What are the suggested reforms and how far are they significant to make democracy successful? Now, before moving on to the discussion regarding appointments, let us briefly discuss about the Election Commission of India. Election Commission of India is a constitutional body constituted under Article 324 of the Constitution, and it is vested with the responsibilities of superintendence, direction, control and conduct of elections. Further, Article 324 states that the Election Commission shall consist of Chief Election Commissioner and such numbers of other election commissioners as the President may from time to time fix. So, it is the President who makes a decision on the number of election commissioners to be appointed to the Election Commission of India, and it is subject to the provisions of any law made in that behalf by the Parliament. Now we will discuss the issues associated with the appointment of election commissioners. The first issue is lack of security of tenure. Article 324 clause 5 states that only the Chief Election Commissioner of India can be removed in the same manner and grounds for the removal of Judge of Supreme Court, and the election commissioners can be removed by government on the recommendation of Chief Election Commissioner. The present system of appointment does not guarantee any security of tenure to the election commissioners. Hence, it is a major issue. The second one is absence of legislation. The appointment of Chief Election Commissioner and other election commissioners according to Article 324 shall be done as per the law made by Parliament. However, till date, no such law has been made, which leaves a gap and leaves the appointment of such crucial posts solely to the executives, which can further result into the issue of nepotism. The third issue is related with the qualifications. The Constitution has not prescribed any qualifications, be it legal or educational, of the members of Election Commission. There is no set criteria or objective criteria for the appointment of a person as Election Commissioner. The fourth one is post-retirement benefits. The Constitution has not debarred the retiring Election Commissioner from any further appointment by the government, which leaves a space in which election commissioners might pass rules or orders in order to get benefit from the government. And lastly, there is no clarity between the division of powers between Chief Election Commissioner and election commissioners. These are the broad issues associated with appointment procedure of election commissioners. Now let us discuss the reforms which are required to ensure the autonomy and independence of election commission. The first one is related to legislation. There is a need for clear-cut legislation by outlining how the Chief Election Commissioner and election commissioners will be appointed, as it will ensure transparency and fair selection in the procedure. The second one is related to qualifications. There is a need to specify the necessary qualifications and experience for election commissioners by focusing on the legal expertise, administrative competence, and integrity. The third one is related to the tenure. There is a need to provide security of tenure for all election commissioners to prevent the arbitrary removal and political influences. The fourth one is clear powers division. Government needs to clearly define the roles and responsibilities of Chief Election Commissioner and other election commissioners in order to prevent the conflicts. The next one is transparency in selection. As Supreme Court also passed a judgment on the selection committee for the appointment of Chief Election Commissioner and election commissioners, so there is a need to form a diverse committee which includes members from judiciary and civil society to assess the candidates in a fair manner. The next reform is related to the post-retirement rules. There is a need for introduction of rules which prevents the retiring commissioners from taking the immediate positions in government to prevent the conflict of interest. Further, there is a need to enhance the independence of the Election Commission of India, and it can be done by amending the Constitution to grant the Election Commission greater autonomy from the government influence. Further, there is a need for capacity building. Government should focus on investing in regular training programs for commissioners and staff to improve their understanding of electoral process and technologies. And lastly, periodic review. Continuous monitoring and periodic review is the need of the hour in order to address the emerging challenges and to maintain the integrity of the election process. And such reforms are required to ensure that the Election Commission remains independent and autonomous in its decision making, which will further strengthen India's democratic functioning. A quick recap to our discussion. First of all, we have discussed the context and its relevance for General Studies Paper 2 and a question which appeared in 2017 mains exam. We briefly discussed about Election Commission of India and the issues with the appointment procedure. We also discuss the reforms which are required in this particular direction. Moving on to the next topic, which is based on this news, which talks about the sickle cell disease. And the context is that the Tribal Minister of India has launched a training session for an awareness campaign that is the part of government's mission to make India free of sickle cell disease by 2047. This topic is important for General Studies Paper 3 under Science and Technology section. We will briefly discuss about the sickle cell disease and the initiatives taken by Government of India in this particular regard. First of all, it is a group of inherited red blood cell disorder that are caused by a mutation in the hemoglobin gene. A mutation refers to a change in genetic material of an organism, and it can occur naturally due to the errors in DNA replication, exposure to mutagenes, or other factors. So, sickle cell disease is an inherited red blood cell disorder which is caused by the mutation in hemoglobin gene. Try to remember this piece of information as it can be helpful in the prelims exam. And this mutation leads to the production of abnormal hemoglobin, which is known as hemoglobin S, which causes red blood cells to take on a sickle-like, which means C-shaped shape instead of their normal round shape. And to see the difference between normal blood cell and the sickle cell blood cell, you can refer to this particular slide. Here we have shown the normal red blood cells which are round in shape, and on the other hand the sickle cell blood cells, they are in the sickle shape, which is also known as C shape. Further, it is caused by a change in hemoglobin, the protein in the red blood cells that carries oxygen to all parts of the body. And when the red blood cells with hemoglobin S go through the smallest blood vessels called capillaries, some of the cells form into rigid strands and become sticky. And this rigid and sticky strand often gets stuck, clogging the capillaries. As a result, the different parts of the body do not get the oxygen they need, and hence it impacts the normal functioning of a human body. Now let us have a look at sickle cell disease status in India. India is the second worst affected country in the terms of predicted births with sickle cell disease. In India, around 18 million people have sickle cell traits and around 1.4 million patients have sickle cell disease. And majorly it is prevalent in the tribal population in India, where about 1 in 86 births among scheduled tribes have sickle cell disease. So, this disease majorly impacts the tribal population. And here we have mentioned the states which have the higher prevalence of sickle cell disease, which includes Chhattisgarh, West Bengal, Uttar Pradesh, Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh, Jharkhand, Gujarat, Odisha, Kerala, and Rajasthan. And collectively, these states are referred to as sickle cell belt. Try to remember this piece of information as it can be helpful in some or other way for prelims or mains exam. And what about its treatment? Sickle cell disease is a lifelong illness as it is a genetic disorder, hence making its complete elimination is a challenge. There is only one cure, which is in the form of gene therapy and stem cell transplants, which is also costly and still in the development stage. So, as of now, there is no treatment to this particular disease. Now we will quickly go through the government initiatives in this regard. First of all, Ministry of Health under the National Health Mission initiated the work on hemoglobinopathies, which includes thalassemia and sickle cell disease. Further, the Sickle Cell Anemia Elimination Mission of 2047 was launched to eradicate the challenge of sickle cell by allocating sufficient budget, advanced technologies, and by providing training to the health workers. So these are the two important missions with respect to sickle cell disease. The next prelim pointers which we have taken is regarding the Hoolock Sanctuary. And the headline says, reroute rail track through Gibbon Sanctuary. The context of this news is that the Hoolock Gibbon Sanctuary has been split into two by a railway track running through it. And the presence of railway track splits the gibbons' habitat and impedes their ability to move freely throughout the sanctuary area. And from this particular news, we got to know about two things. The first one is Holangapur Sanctuary and Western Hoolock Gibbon. We will briefly discuss these in this particular discussion. First of all, the Holangapur Gibbon Sanctuary. It was established in 1997 with the objective of conserving the Hoolock gibbon and its natural environment. And where it is located? It is located in Jorhat district of Assam. Try to remember this piece of information as this particular sanctuary is located in Assam. As UPSC previously asked many questions regarding sanctuaries and national parks. And further, this sanctuary exhibits distinct features of semi-evergreen and mixed deciduous forest. And it supports a broad variety of plant and animal species. And the biodiversity which is there in the Holangapur Sanctuary is as such. The major species which is found in this particular area is the Western Hoolock gibbon. It is a species which is classified as endangered according to IUCN Red List. Further, it also accommodates the stump-tailed macaque and capped langur. And the avian species which are prevalent in this particular area are great hornbill, green imperial pigeon, and white-cheeked partridge. So, here we have briefly discussed about the Holangapur Sanctuary and the biodiversity in this particular sanctuary. In this particular picture, you will find the Western Hoolock gibbon. Now we will briefly discuss about the Hoolock gibbon. It is a primate species which is widely recognized as gibbons in scientific community. And it is found in several regions of South Asia, which includes India, Bangladesh, Myanmar, and some areas of China. And this particular species inhabit many forest ecosystems, which include tropical rainforest, subtropical woods, and mixed deciduous forests. Further, in India, this species is found in the states of Assam, Arunachal, and Nagaland. And the gibbons have mostly frugivorous diet, which includes diverse range of fruits, leaves, and sometimes insects. And lastly, it is an endangered species under the IUCN Red List. With this piece of information, we will conclude our discussion for the day. Thank you for watching today's DNS. Stay tuned for upcoming sessions which will enhance your preparation for the UPSC Civil Services exam.